There are places in the mind where the world stands still, where noises fade, breath softens, and everything that once hurt begins to bloom again. This is the story of Nia, a woman who forgot how to rest, a mother, a wife, a caregiver who gave herself to everything and everyone until the mirror no longer knew her name. The day began the same it always did. The alarm's shrill cry, the soft hum of the coffee maker she set the night before, the sound of Malcolm's footsteps already moving down the hall, early, always early, before the kids even stirred. And he didn't kiss her goodbye anymore. Sometimes she'd catch a flash of his blue tie in the hallway mirror before the door clicked shut. It wasn't anger, it was absence. The kind that doesn't shout, but erodes quietly. Her mother-in-law's voice cut through the morning. "You missed the spot on the counter again, dear." The older woman didn't mean harm, but her tone carried 1,000 small judgments wrapped in kindness. Nia nodded, biting her tongue, the way she always did, because arguing took energy she didn't have. The kids argued over cereal. The dog scratched at the door, and Nia moved through chaos like a ghost in her own home, doing everything right, feeling everything wrong. By the time Malcolm's car pulled out of the driveway, the silence he left behind was louder than the noise before it. She stood for a moment at the sink, hands in soapy water, eyes unfocused. Sometimes she wondered what he saw when he looked at her now, if he looked at her at all. The woman he married used to paint at sunrise and laugh at nothing. Now she just manages time, breakfast, homework, bills, appointments, like a clock that never stopped ticking. She told herself it was just a season, but seasons have come and gone, and she was still lost inside the same weather. That afternoon, Mama Jean had one of her tired spells. Nia helped her to bed, listening to the older woman murmur, "You young folks don't know how to keep a house right, not like my generation." Nia smiled through it, always. But when she closed the door behind her, she leaned her forehead against it and let her eyes burn. She wasn't sure if she was angry or just tired of being invisible. Dinner came and went. Malcolm called and said he'd be late again. "Big meeting," he said. "Of course," she replied. She sat alone at the table after the kids went to bed, picking at leftover pasta. The hum of the refrigerator sounded like a low chant, monotonous, endless. She smelt the faint smell of the pasta. She felt small in her own home. She felt like a background character in her own life that used to feel like hers. She wanted to scream, to cry, to paint. Her hands only washed, folded, scrubbed. By 8:05 the next morning, she was back in the car line. The same silver minivan, the same row of mothers wearing yesterday's fatigue. Rain tapped against the windshield like fingers on glass, impatient, rhythmic, alive. That's when it happened. For the smallest breath of a second, the raindrops no longer fell straight down. They curved, painting trails of silver light that shimmered like vines. Her steering wheel softened under her grip, turned to something like bark, and she smelled not rain, but honeysuckle. Then a horn blared behind her, and the vines were gone. The world snapped back into motion. She shook her head. I really need sleep, she whispered. But the image stayed. The vines, the honey, the sense that somewhere, just beyond the noise, something waited. That night, she couldn't sleep. She lay awake, watching the shadows move across the ceiling, each one bending and reshaping like smoke in slow motion. For the first time in years, she let herself imagine what it would feel like to be seen again, not as a wife or a mother or a caretaker, but as a woman who still had something beautiful left inside her. The thought scared her because what if she found it and no one cared? And with that single question, her world began to shift. That night, while Malcolm snored softly beside her, Nia stared at the ceiling. Each exhale of his chest sounded like distance, steady, sure, unreachable. She turned away, closed her eyes, and there it was again. The sound of leaves, a faint hum of bees, a gate, wooden, weathered, pulsing with light. She stepped through it. The world unfolded in color. Vines curled around her wrists but didn't bend. They guided. Flowers pulsed like hearts, petals, the colors of her memories, pink for laughter, blue for silence, gold for what she had lost. And there in the center, a canvas, blank but breathing. She lifted a brush that had appeared beside her, delicate, weightless. When she touched it to the surface, colors burst like emotion, deep crimson for exhaustion, violet for hope. The garden responded. Every stroke changed the world around her. When she opened her eyes, she was back in the kitchen, but her hands still trembled as if the motion of painting. And there, on the counter beside her, her coffee cup was a faint mark, a streak of gold that shimmered before fading. That morning, she picked up her daughter's crayons and drew absently on a napkin, just shapes and lines. But something in her chest loosened. Something began to breathe again. Days became fragments, moments stolen between chaos and caregiving. Each time she closed her eyes, the garden grew. There was a white fox now, small and quiet, who followed her through the vines. Its eyes were knowing, gentle but sharp, and sometimes it spoke without words. Remember what you once wanted. She didn't answer. Not yet. Weeks passed, and something began to change in her real life. Her sketches, once scribbles on napkins, became outlines, patterns, shapes, small bursts of beauty. She began painting again, late at night, when the house finally fell silent. Her canvas, the corners of the laundry room. And though she sold none of them, they whispered for her, "Keep going, keep going, keep going after your dream." One afternoon, while searching for her mother in law's medication, she found an old photo of her younger self at an art show, smiling fearless. She hadn't seen that girl in years. That night, the garden shimmered brighter than ever. The pond reflected her face, older, wiser, whole, and the voice, that same gentle wind, said it was never lost, only buried. By spring, her art had found its way online, a small shop, quiet, anonymous. Orders trickled in, then more. She didn't tell Malcolm, not because she hid it, but because she wanted to protect it until it was strong enough to stand. The house began to shift too. There was more laughter, more warmth. Even her mother in law, now visited daily by a cheerful caregiver, seemed softer. One evening, Malcolm came home early, a rare surprise. He paused at the door, confused. A woman he didn't recognize was in the kitchen cooking. A man he'd never seen was walking the dog. Upstairs, soft jazz floated through the hallway, and scents of lilies filled the air. He climbed the stairs and found a note on their bed. "Meet me where we first began." He smiled, puzzled, but went. At their old restaurant, she was already there. Candlelight danced against her skin. Her dress was soft green, flowing like the garden itself. When she stood up, the years of exhaustion had vanished. In her eyes, he saw something that unnerved him: freedom. They talked for hours about nothing and everything. She laughed easily the way she hadn't in years. She reached her hand for his, and for the first time, he didn't feel like the provider. He felt like the pursuer. When they returned home, Nia walked through each room slowly. The painting on the walls, hers, glowed faintly under the light. Malcolm noticed them for the first time. "Did you paint these?" he asked. She smiled. "I've been painting for a while now." He looked again. Every canvas held fragments of their life, the children, the mother in law, even himself. But seeing through colors he didn't recognize, it was their world, made strange and beautiful. He turned to her, uncertain, and in that silence, she became something untouchable, a woman reborn, quietly powerful. Outside, wind brushed the windows, carrying the scent of lilies. Malcolm returned toward it, unsettled by how beautiful she'd become and by the question of how much farther she might yet bloom. There are places in the mind where the world stands still, where a woman can wonder until she finds herself again. Nia found hers in a garden, not outside her window, but inside her soul. And maybe, if you listen closely, you'll hear the gate creak open too. You've just listened to A Beyond Strange Art original audiobook, written and read by Teresa Cole. If you're enjoying the content, don't forget to like and subscribe and look forward to weekly uploads. See the description box for access to Beyond Strange Art Gallery Store.